Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 15 4 key game picks. Before we talk about week number 15, just a quick reminder, those of you, that there will be a text on the fly for giving you a quick update on the number 1 through 7 seeds in both the AFC and NFC conferences. So that text will be flying by for the remainder of the regular season in my videos up until week number 18. Anyways, talking about week number 14 last week, and there was quite a bit of some surprises last week. Some teams that basically last week it was almost a week of comebacks for a lot of teams. I think the biggest surprise really was that that the Bills almost came back to beat the Buccaneers. That was probably maybe one of the most surprising games of all, because I mean everybody had the Buccaneers as beating them pretty handily, because the way the Bills played in that game against the Buccaneers, they basically trailed for basically the entire first half of that game, and they weren't as sharp, and they definitely weren't sharp at all. It took until the second half until Josh Allen and that offense really tried to get something going for that Bills team, and they did take the game to overtime. But Tom Brady, as usual, he knows how to close football games, and they ended up winning in overtime. Bengals 49ers also win in overtime as well. Justin Burrow's starting to come of age a little bit. I mean, he had to come from behind just to tie the game, when I really thought they could have had the game won in regulation, but they were only able to tie the game. But unfortunately, the 49ers, as a desperate football team right now, they're trying to make their case for the postseason here, ended up winning that game as well. Steelers almost made the miraculous comeback against the Vikings last week, but the Vikings were able to hold them off, and that really was the scariest game for any football team, because the Vikings had an enormous lead last Thursday, and then the Steelers came back. They almost tied the game, but Minnesota's defense basically stopped them at the end, and that to me was a heartbreaker. Was really a heartbreaking loss for the Steelers, let alone a heart attack for the Minnesota Vikings. And the Cardinals lost to the Rams on Monday night, and that was probably the surprise of the weekend. Because, I mean, if you looked at the last few games, the Rams haven't been impressive at all. Basically, there seemed to be some turmoil through the football team right now, and it's almost as like Sean McVay has completely lost control of the football team. I still think he has, because they were fortunate enough to win as a team, but with only 4 games left in the regular season, can this Rams team make a case now that they could take over the division? But I don't think it's still going to happen. They were fortunate enough to get a win against the Cardinals, to not just because to keep pace in the NFC West, but basically to make sure to solidify their spot in the postseason. Because currently right now the Rams, I think, are the 4th or 5th seed at the moment. You saw the text on the fly. Pretty much you'll know where they stand right now. So yeah, it was quite a bit of surprises in week number 14. It really was the week, could have been the week of comebacks, but a lot of teams did not come back on their foot in respective football games and ended up losing. Anyways, let's talk about week number 15. All right, let's begin with key game number 1, the big showdown in the AFC West. It is the Chiefs versus the Chargers. The Chiefs are a 3-point favorite in this game, and I would say that number might go a little lower, maybe 2.5, maybe 2 points by kickoff on Thursday. But I'm going to stick with 3 points on this one here. Now, Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 24, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in a big win last week in their respective game. They basically destroyed the Raiders. The Raiders didn't have a chance in that football game. They basically just destroyed the Raiders in that game. Justin Herbert, 23 of 31, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Obviously, the Chargers and the Chiefs basically played warm-up games for their big matchup on Thursday night, and this is huge. This definitely will decide the AFC West right here, because if the Chiefs do beat the Chargers, they'll be at least 2 games up on them and pretty much everybody else in the division. So this is a huge game for both these two teams. Now, obviously, the Chiefs would have the bigger advantage if they win this game against the Chargers, because they'll be ahead of everybody in the division. For the Chargers, if they do win this game, They will have the edge against Kansas City in a tiebreaker if it comes down to week at number 18. But for the Chargers here, they'll only have a 1-game lead over everybody because they did lose to the Broncos, and that did hurt in the standings a bit in the division. Key points for this football game. Kansas City defense is a hell of a lot better than they played in the first meeting, because basically the Chiefs didn't know what their identity was in their first meeting. That was back in, I think, week number 3, something like that. Yeah, where the Chargers were able to take advantage of miscues and mistakes that the offense and defense of the Chiefs were making. But this is completely different. Chiefs defense is on a roll. Mahomes and the offense is starting to look good right now. Now, this is a real test for the Chargers defense right now. And it's really tough to say. This game's a huge toss-up here. Herbert and the offense really is going to have to play a hell of a lot more flawlessly than they did against the Giants, because that was basically a warm-up game for them. It is going to be a very, very tough game. It's really a toss-up here. This game could go either way. But the way I'm looking at it right now, it is hard to go against Patrick Mahomes. And I'm a Chargers fan here, and you know who I'll be rooting for Thursday night. But I can't be biased here in the way I look at it right now. In reality, the way the offense is going for the Chiefs right now, the way they're on a roll, their defense is playing much better than they have been in a long time. And the way things are going right now, they're on a hot streak. I like the Chiefs. I hate to pick this one here. It's really tough to go against the Chargers here, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs here. The Chiefs offense and the way they're on this hot winning streak that they're in right now, it is hard to go against Patrick Mahomes and that offense here. And it'll definitely be a very close game, but I just think the Chiefs are going to win this time. The Chargers defense right now, they still have to figure out a way to stop the run, and they really got to find a way to make big plays in the passing game to make sure that Patrick Mahomes doesn't make any big plays. But I just don't see it happening in this game. I like the Chiefs in this one here. Chiefs take the 3 points for Chiefs on this one here. Chiefs -3. Chiefs over the Chargers. Key game number 2. The New England Patriots versus the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are a favorite in this one by 2.5, and that number is sure to go to 2, maybe 1.5 by Saturday's kickoff. This is one of the games that's going to be played on Saturday. Now, the Patriots and Mac Jones, both teams were on their bye last week. These are stats from their wins in week number 13. Now, Mac Jones didn't do all that much against the Bills. Basically, the New England's running game did all the work for them, because Mac Jones only went 2 of 3, 19 yards, no touchdowns and interceptions. Now, Carson Wentz went 16 of 22 in their last game. In his last game, 158 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. Basically, that was a warm-up game for them, because this is a game that's going to be much tougher than their last opponent. Now, Mac Jones is going to have to really throw the ball in this game, because the Colts defense is not a joke. They've done a fantastic job. They've improved a bit they've improved a lot since their last loss to the Tennessee Titans. So this is really big time question marks right now for this Indianapolis Colts team. Can their defense stop New England's run? And that's one of the things for New England right now. Their defense, can they stop Carson Wentz from making big plays here? Both offenses are a little bit evenly matched. I would still give kind of an edge to New England because of their running game. Defense-wise, they're average. They're about evenly matched. So this is a tough pick here. Another tough game. And really right now, the Bills are cheering for the Colts right now to beat New England, even though New England has the edge right now. But a lot of it's going to deal with standings in the AFC conference here. It's a tough pick here. And this game could go either way. It's really going to be a back and forth. It could be a back and forth game here. Let's just see what Mac Jones is made of in this game, because this is a game where he's going to have to really throw the ball here, because Indianapolis' defense here can stop the run pretty well. And this is where Mac Jones is going to have to shine in this game. But it's going to be a tough game here. It's a tough pick here. Take this with a grain of salt. Take this with caution here, because I don't know who's going to win this game here. It's a tough one here. But I'm going to go all out on the upset here. I think New England wins this game here, because they were able to run the ball effectively against the Bills, And if they can run the ball effectively against Indy's defense here, I think they'll win this game here. Mac Jones may not have to do that much like he did in his last game against the Bills. I'm going to pick New England here. I just think New England's defense is going to be the key in this game here to stop Carson Wentz. But it's going to be a close game here. I can see this being a close game, but I like New England in this one here. It's going to be very close. New England plus 2.5. Patriots over the Colts. Key game number 3, Tennessee Titans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Titans are a slight favorite in this one at -2. Tannehill in his last game, 20 of 31, 191 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions in the big win last week against the Jaguars. Roethlisberger, 28 of 40, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and quite a tough loss against the Vikings. This is it for Pittsburgh. I'm going to say this up front now. They're 6-1 right now, but even though the AFC conference is tightening up in terms of playoff standings right now, but I just think right now for the Steelers, this is a must-win game for them in order just to keep pace, because if they lose this game, they're now in danger of basically missing the postseason now, because their next few games are not going to be they got a tough road ahead in their last 4 games. Now the Titans right here, they're in pretty good shape, but I sense this kind of might be a trap game for them, because really, look, their win against the Jaguars wasn't all that impressive. They're badly missing Henry. Their running game wasn't all that great last week, and there's a lot of question marks right now going forward of this Tennessee Titans team. Currently, like I say, they still have the edge in the division, but you just can't count out Indianapolis. Well, that is assuming. Look, I've already made my pick on that one here. I just think that New England will beat the Colts here. You just can't count out the Colts going forward the rest of the way in the remaining games, because they could still make a case to try to catch up to the Titans here. But talking about the Titans and the Steelers here, look, Pittsburgh's defense struggled last week against Minnesota big time. And that is, and I would say for the Titans, look at that game and see what their flaws were, because the Steelers did have a lot of trouble stopping the run. And the Tennessee Titans running game is a bit average. But I just think if they can run the ball effectively on this Pittsburgh defense here, they have a shot. But I'm not going to pick the Titans here. The Steelers are desperate. Their offense, I think, they're going to be playing more of a desperate team. And like I said earlier, I can sense this being a trap game for them. And if Pittsburgh's offense gets going here, and if the Steelers can make some big plays defensively, I'm picking the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. This is another grain with caution here. Take this with a grain of salt. Treat this with caution in this one here, because the Titans are still pretty good. But I just think that Tannehill's doing way too much, and obviously they're doing a lot without a running game. But I just think the Steelers here, they're playing more desperate now. They're trying to get in the postseason here. I think they'll be playing as a more desperate team, and I think they're going to be able to play with more effectiveness than they did last week against the Vikings here. It's going to be a close game in this one here. Like I said, this game can go either way. It's a tough pick here. I'm going to pick the Steelers +2 on this one here. It is Roethlisberger and that offense, I think, will get it going here. He's not going to make any mistakes like he did last week against the Vikings. I think that last week they weren't prepared for that game. But no, in this game, I think they'll be more prepared for the Titans than they were last week. And I just think for the Titans here, they have to really be ready for their offense here. But I'm going to pick the Steelers here. It's going to be a close game. It's a tough pick here. Take that with a grain of salt on this one here. I'm picking the Steelers +2, Steelers over the Titans. And finally, key game number 4, it is the Green Bay Packers versus the Baltimore Ravens. Packers are a 5-point favorite in this one here, and I would say that's just about right, because there's no official word yet on Lamar Jackson if he's going to play in this game for the Ravens, because he did have an ankle injury last week against the Browns. Obviously, Rodgers is also dealing with an injury of his own with the toe, and obviously that's not going to stop him. Rodgers, 29 of 37, 341 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, Huntley played majority of the game because Lamar Jackson, I think, got hurt in the second quarter of that game against the Browns. Huntley went 27 of 38, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. They barely came back and beat the Browns, but they lost by 2 points as they couldn't convert. They weren't able to convert a 2-point conversion in that game. The main storyline in this game really is Lamar Jackson. There is no word yet, as far as I recorded this video, whether or not he's going to start in this game. That just brings to me a lot of question marks for that offense. Now, defense-wise, they're going to be missing some key players. I think for health reasons, or in some cases, some injuries. So this could not have come at a worse time for the Ravens, especially when they're trying to wrap up the AFC North division. That division now is up for grabs. They were fortunate enough that the Bengals lost to the 49ers, because the Bengals would have taken over first place if they'd beaten them. So now this is desperate time now for the Ravens here, and see what they're made of. But it is very hard to go against Aaron Rodgers and that offense, and Packers defense is still quite good, even though they actually had their struggles against the Bears, but they did beat them by 15 last week. There's a lot of question marks right now for the Ravens. What are they made of? How they are without Lamar Jackson. It is going to be huge if he doesn't play in this game on Sunday. So I'm going to make this quick and straight. A lot of it's going to depend on whether or not Lamar Jackson plays, but even if he plays, that ankle's going to really bother him. No word if Harbaugh's going to really take the risk of putting them in there on Sunday. But it's really going to be hard to go against Aaron Rodgers here and that offense here. I'm going with the Packers in this one here. Their offense is just on a roll. Their defense is still playing at a high rate. It's hard to go against Aaron Rodgers here in this game here. I'm going to pick the Packers plus 5. I'm going to pick the Packers minus 5. Excuse me. Packers are a 5-point favorite. You take the Packers at minus 5 here on this one here. Packers over the Ravens. All right, everybody. That wraps up my picks for week number 15. For all my week 15 picks, please check the description below, and I'll talk to you guys next week when I make my picks for week 16. Until then, take care and enjoy your football weekend.